Continuing our coverage of the Murdaugh murder trial with Ronnie Richter of the Bland Richter Law Firm. Ronnie is helping us understand potential defense and prosecution strategies and the potential impact on the trial. Of course, we know that the trial is not happening today because of President's Day, so the proceedings will again pick up tomorrow at 9 o'clock. So, Ronnie, let's actually go back to some of what we've seen over the past 3 to 4 weeks of the trial. I think one of the biggest questions is the defense now presenting its side and what the defense has to do to get a strong lead, a commanding lead, and to take over this trial.
Yeah, really, the defense becomes offense now, right? So you want to attack, and you want to attack the weaknesses. And there's a couple of obvious weaknesses in the state's case that they're going to exploit. Number one, the motive theory is very shaky. I mean, the idea that I'm under financial pressure, and because of that, I put a shotgun under my son's chin and blew his head off. That's very shaky, right? Same as to Maggie. There's no real evidence of strife in that relationship. So I get it. Alex is under extreme pressure. But what about that causes him to gun down his wife, a woman with whom it appears he had a very good relationship? So that is one area that you can expect to see the defense attack with lots of character witnesses to talk about the closeness of those relationships right up to the time of the murder.
Let's also talk about some of the other issues that we anticipate the defense will try to exploit. And another area is forensics.
Yeah, the forensics are weak. There's other circumstantial evidence that's quite strong. But for a case like this, you would think the jury would prefer that there's solid DNA, there's solid fingerprint evidence, there's something forensically, scientifically, that gives me the comfort to know that he actually did the crime. And that's lacking in the case. So on the defense, expect to hear from their forensics experts to say one shooter is impossible. And number two, had Alex actually pulled the trigger on the gun that killed Paul, he would have been covered in head to toe with DNA, aerosol DNA, other DNA. And so it's unlikely, impossible that it was Alex that did that.
Yeah, but these are all very important things. One other key detail is whether there was a rush to judgment, if you will. We all know that right after the murders were reported, did we actually see an attempt by law enforcement to shut that community down and there be an all-out manhunt, a search for the killer or possible killers?
Yeah, see, this was a major misstep by the investigative team, not by the prosecution team. You inherit the facts that you're given. But for the investigators to come out, not even 24 hours after the murders, and announce publicly that there is no danger to the community, that's to say we already know who our guy is. There had been no arrest at the time, no investigation, no forensics. I mean, it feels like it's a results-driven investigation thereafter, and they foreclosed themselves to investigating other people besides Alex Murdaugh.
You said last week that the state needs to stretch its lead before the defense took over. Yeah. Do you believe they did that?
I had not believed that throughout the trial, but I think they finished strong and got that lead that they needed, right? So when it's your turn and you're on your case trying to prove your points, you should be winning. All right, it had been neck and neck, but that strong finish with the GPS mapping, very impressive. And then the roadside shooting with Cousin Eddie. Innocent men do not fabricate elaborate narratives to make it sound like the Murdaugh killer is still out there and now he's hunting me. So those things in combination at the end, I think, did stretch that lead out for the state.
Since we have a day off from the trial and just thinking about some of what you've seen over the past few weeks, what are some of those key moments, some of those key takeaway moments that you believe the jury will talk about if and when they finally get to deliberate?
I think Alex's lies about not being at the kennels. I think that's the most incriminating thing that we have in the case against Alex. When you couple that with the excellent job the state did through cell phone and OnStar mapping to show his movements between the time of his time at the kennels, his trip to Alameda, and his return, that was excellent evidence that clearly proves that he was involved in some way. So that's very impressive. And then finally, the Cousin Eddie roadside shooting. If you don't believe that was a suicide for hire, and I don't know how you could believe that, then you can only believe that it was an elaborate lie to try to get the hounds off of his trail.
Let's go back to hearing from some of the witnesses on the stand. You mentioned, first of all, in terms of those key pieces of evidence and key takeaways, hearing Alex Murdaugh at the kennels and hearing
Yes.
his voice. I mean, and witness after witness, people who know him very well, family members all saying that's him there.
Yeah, no question. He turns out in the case to be his own worst witness. He's not going to take the stand, not unless the Titanic is hitting the iceberg. Okay, so we're not going to hear from him. But we've heard from him multiple times. We heard from him in the kennel video. We heard from him in the police car. We heard from him in the subsequent interview that took place. And his inconsistencies, if he gets convicted, will be the thing that hangs him.
And despite the fact that we are hearing from sources that he will take the stand, you still don't believe that's going to happen?
It's crazy. It's crazy to think you put that man on the stand. His entire life has been a lie. To think that he's going to turn to the jury and convince them, I'm not lying to you now, that's a tough sell. I would not put him on the stand.
All right, Ronnie Richter, we look forward to our conversation tomorrow.
Okay.
Always appreciate your guidance. And of course, we want you to stay right here with us. You can read more about the Murdaugh murder trial by going to our website, counton2.com.